Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for helping out. My name is Ransom Onyema. A radiography student currently in my fourth year, and apart from my medical studies in radiography, I'm also a medical content writer, and I'm also a YouTube content creator. So today, I have an amazing guest speaker. Hey, Ansley, could you really introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes. Hey everybody, my name's Aynsley. I'm an undergraduate student at UNC Chapel Hill in the United States. I'm a rising sophomore studying biology and mathematics on the pre-med track. I'm really interested in women's health, particularly right now looking at reproductive endocrinology. And some of my other passions are musical theater. I love musical theater. Pretty much all medical science stuff. I love learning new things about medicine and the advancement of women in particular. I'm very much involved with a lot of things regarding women's advancement and STEM in particular. And so I'm really excited for this conversation today to talk more about myself and get to have a conversation with Ransom. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for introducing yourself to the audience. And I believe that the audience now know a little bit more about you. So we have a little couple of questions for you to answer. You ready?
Yes.
So if I'm looking downwards, I'm reading the questions to Ansley. So you guys been wondering why am I always looking downwards for? I've already written down the questions on a piece of paper for her to share our narrative. All right. So the first question for you is, what really inspired you to start up Speak Out Sisterhood? So before you talk about that, tell us about that company you started. Tell us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Speak Out Sisterhood is a global network elevating youth to eradicate barriers to equality for women in STEM. And it's a nonprofit that I started about October of 2023. And the goal of our organization is to bridge the gap between larger companies and organizations that are dedicated to the advancement of women in STEM and the young people who I know are also incredibly eager to become a part of that work, but just maybe aren't finding the opportunities or don't have the experience to qualify for these opportunities to become a part of that. So we got started. Really, the idea had been in my head for a while that I wanted to create some kind of independent community for young women to be able to launch into their careers and have the support and the leadership development that they needed in order to do that. Because something that I noticed as a young woman going through my own journey um, in STEM, exploring what I was interested in, there are so many opportunities and organizations out there that are all dedicated to STEM enrichment, experiments and trips to the planetarium. And while that's great and super, super important for sparking that interest in STEM in kids at a young age, there's also this component that I don't really see being addressed a lot, which is once you're in STEM, when you're a woman, it's not just going to be all peaches and roses and rainbows. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be gender bias that you're going to have to deal with. There's the gender pay gap that we're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to know how to balance childcare if you're a mother, and just all of these other factors that uh, interest in and ability to create a baking soda volcano isn't really going to help you. There are these skills and strengths that you need to be able to wield when you're going through STEM as a woman that so many organizations don't teach. You can't teach those things. And so what I decided to do with my organization was provide that launching pad where young women could have these experience that build that confidence and self-advocacy and public speaking skills that are so important for being able to survive STEM and continue on to STEM and advance in STEM. That's why our mission is not just about getting people interested in STEM, but advancing through STEM, making that progress toward leadership, which is really what we need to see. So the main thing that really sparked my decision from idea to reality was a conference that I went to in October. Amazing people, amazing conference. It was all about STEM innovation. And there I really saw how many people, again, were so invested in this idea of women's advancement, but were just as surprised slash excited to see me as a young person there. I was easily the youngest person there. The second youngest must have been like out of college graduate, like maybe a few years out of college. And so it was very obvious to me that there, just as much as there are like so many roadblocks to be a young person trying to make change in the world, there are just as many people eager to help you get there. You just have to find them. And so Speak Out Sisterhood is all about bridging that gap between the people who want to see young people's advancement and the young people themselves who want to get involved and want to build that experience and want to have these opportunities to build their leadership skills and confidence. So that's really what our main mission was, and that's what we continue to live by to this day.
Wow, amazing. Wow. Hmm. Ansley, there's something I noticed about, your explanation, what really inspired you, to start up this amazing company, named Speak Out Sisterhood. It's amazing that the conference you attended, really sparked up the knowledge of you to, creating such, sisterhood. But I have another question for before we move further, because I've had a lot of guest speakers on my YouTube. You know, some people are my students as you as well. So they were like, they started up something because they have had prior experience to such thing they are starting up. So could you tell us if you had any incident in terms of a disease or some kind of you know diseases related to women that you've had in the past that made you to start up that company and in regards to you attending such event? Tell us. Do you?
That's a great question. I would say it's sort of a twofold answer because one of the biggest issues facing women that I don't think gets enough, um, what's the word? Like, is not respected and valued enough as a legitimate issue is mental health. And when you're a woman, especially a woman in STEM, there is so much that is just eager to jump out and annihilate your mental health, whether that's imposter syndrome, gender bias, people constantly judging you, or the fear of being judged, the pressure of perfectionism, all of these things that weigh down on you and really do deteriorate your mental state. I myself have definitely struggled with imposter syndrome and perfectionism a lot. And it's really been a group of supportive mentors who have helped me get past those feelings and validate them, but also not let myself dwell in them. And so I would say that my own experiences, particularly with these mental health uh, roadblocks that a lot of women struggle with, has definitely been a major guiding force in my decision to become more involved in women in STEM advocacy and advancement. And then the other side that I've slowly become really interested in is endocrinology. As I said before, I want to go into reproductive endocrinology. And something about endocrinology that really interests me is the way that every thing that happens in our body, in some sense, can be boiled down to changes in our biochemistry and all these hormonal changes, especially as a young woman going through adolescence and young adulthood. I have definitely been firsthand experience with the way that hormones can really kind of take control of you, and that's always interested me so much that the way that it sort of integrates with women's health is, we as women, we have very, when people who are born as women have a very unique anatomical and physiological system. And I've always found it fascinating the way that even some of these things that people hail as women's strengths, like empathy and perfectionism can be a strength in a way, can sometimes be boiled down to those physiological um, advantages, or not advantages, but maybe those physiological features, and particularly like hormonal features. And so that's always really interested me as an aspiring physician, the way that those two worlds sort of connect, um, and has really inspired me to look for more ways that we can integrate our work in terms of career advancement with work in advancing health equity, because it's so intertwined, whether that's, accessibility of healthcare, quality of healthcare, paying for healthcare, and just all these things that really do come back to this main argument of why aren't women advancing in STEM the way that we want to and that we deserve to. So I would say that's sort of the way that I see my own journey and my interests aligning with the medical side of being a woman.
Amazing, amazing. I love the fact you mentioned that course, endocrinology. That was the course I did in my second semester, my third year. You know, it was about the hormones, the integration, how to, affect, the body and how to work the body. So it's a really diverse course, and which is an amazing stuff to do. And I really love how you're, you know, making this easier for people, because I know what you've passed through in terms of your struggles with imposter syndrome and, mental health. And your company is really making things easier for people, especially women out there, which is an amazing stuff you're doing. Kudos to you. And congratulations to you and your team as well.
Thank
So the
you.
next question for you, Ansley, is wait, hold on a minute. You mentioned about you studying biology, right?
Yes.
So what really made you to choose that specialty in the first place?
Well, when you're a pre-med, it's kind of the de facto major, I believe, but also I have been in love with medicine probably since I could walk. And it's always been the path that I wanted to take. I did have like one stint for like a few months where I wanted to be an astronaut, and that quickly went away. But I love medicine because it's always been the thing that kind of just sticks with me. I am terrible with history. I can't remember anything about history, but I can still remember some of the nerves that I learned in an anatomy course 4 years ago. And it's just, that's a sign to me that like, this is the thing that I'm born to do, because it fits me so well. And whenever I'm in a hospital shadowing or just even talking with somebody, it just feels right. Like I'm sure you've maybe felt that same sort of, this feels like where I should be. I feel, what's the word? Like comfortable and competent and confident in this space. And that's the kind of feeling I want to live in. Um, and I particularly love reproductive endocrinology because it's this beautiful mix of all these different fields that I've been really interested in for a while, but never really understood a way that maybe all my interests could connect. There's regenerative medicine, which is something I'm super interested in because there's all about egg preservation and embryo transplantation and all of that. There's surgery. There's a little bit of surgery as well. There's radiology. There's psychology. There's endocrinology, obviously. There's pharmaceuticals. And then there's also very much an intersection between the medicine and the social justice side, because women's health is very much a volatile topic in terms of the different procedures and the different beliefs about accessibility and all of that. And so I really see it as the perfect way to devote my life to improving the lives of others and giving back to this world that has been so good to me, and giving me the opportunities and the resources that have helped me get to this amazing school and understand that I want to go into medicine. Um, and so it really does fit my my sort of my vision for the future and also my strengths and just what I love to do. Because I'm very much a hard worker. I love to just my friends always are like, "Ainsley, you need to relax." I'm like, "This is my relaxation." Like, I don't know the meaning of the word relax. I read medical textbooks for fun. Come on. But I think it just goes back down to medicine is the most impactful way, I believe, to make change in the world because you are the agent of this person's future. And if you can, especially with like reproductive uh, endocrinology, you really are shaping the future because you're helping women be able to start a family and continue to foster the next generation of leaders. And the fact that medical practitioners have the power and the incredible responsibility to do that and really shape the way that our generation and the generations ahead of us are able to take control of their lives is really powerful to me.
Wow. That was amazing, Ainsley. I'm really
Thank you.
proud of you. You know,
Thank
really
you.
proud. And
What
I
about you?
believe.
What was your motivation for medicine?
Actually, I'm not in medicine. I'm radiography. So radiography is kind of like different from medicine in general. So radiography is, mm, it's kind of like the eye of medicine. In the modern medicine, it's kind of the eye of medicine. So I don't want to be a radiographer just like that. I want to be a radiologist. So in a layman's understanding, radiologists are the doctorate aspect of radiographers. Like radiographers are only radiation scientists, radiation technicians, and all that. So I don't want to be there, right?
Mhm.
So that's what the course I'm doing in radiography is kind of like a leverage for me to attain and furthermore to being a radiologist. And the behind the scenes about radiography was, to be honest, I didn't want to study radiography in the first place. Like I wanted to study medicine in the first place in my country. So wrote some exams and I wasn't given, that course in medicine to study in my country. So I was given an offer to study radiography. So I was like, let me give it a shot now. That was 2020 when I started my first, year in university. So when I entered radiography, I was like, what is this course all about? So along the line, I'm now in my fourth year. I'm really falling in love with radiography. So, and with my researching skills and all that, I noticed that I don't want to be at this level only, just being a radiographer. I just want to be a radiologist, which is the doctor aspect of radiography. And so that if you're addressing me, you're not going to address me as just rad. We call radiographers rad. Ransom, no. You should add that Dr. Ransom. So yeah.
Mhm.
How do you
That's
feel about
awesome. I think radiology is so cool. So I definitely feel you about falling in love with it. I definitely thought about radiology for a while too. Um, it is such an interesting field because it is all about seeing those things that you can't see with the naked eye, and that's it's just incredible testament to the power of humanity, to the way that we've been able to devise such incredible technology like that. So that sounds awesome.
that? I love the fact you just, brought in endocrinology as well, which is amazing there. You love that course so much. You love that
Mhm.
course so much.
Isn't it so
So
cool? Like
it's
the
amazing.
way I've always been so fascinated by the way that like personality and behavior and all of these things, we could really trace them down to just chemicals in our body, which is crazy, but also kind of awesome.
It's an amazing course. I did it, so I'm a testament of it. So
Mhm.
you do amazing. amazingly well in the field of medicine because you're really starting up in a good foundation. You're laying up a very good foundation which will yield results in the future. So kudos to you, Ainsley. So that draws me to the second question for you. You ready?
Yes,
So can you share some of the relevant initiatives or programs you are involved within the scope of the Women's Health Program? Tell us.
definitely. So first of all, my organization, Speak Out Sisterhood, we've partnered with another incredible organization here in North Carolina called Period Project North Carolina. And their focus is providing free menstrual products to schools, middle schools, high schools, where access is limited or not at all. And their work that they do is really incredible because it is all about it's about breaking those stigmas around periods and menstruation and giving young people who menstruate the resources and the support that they need in order um, to feel comfortable in their own body. And we love that work. And so we've partnered with them, particularly looking at how do we devise a strategy for identifying specific places in North Carolina where that need is the greatest, whether it's schools of the most financial need, where there's just not enough reach, there's not enough access to menstrual products. And so we partnered with them through our internship program, which is called Generation Yes. So our last run of the program, we had 4 interns working with Peer Project North Carolina on that strategic plan. And now we have one of them who stayed on as a fellow to advance that work and start to implement some of the strategies. So that's definitely one of the avenues that I'm particularly involved in. We really want to continue down that women's health road, looking at other partners for our next iteration of the program that are also involved in women's health, whether that's menstrual health, pregnancy, mental health, all these things. So I'm not going to share any secrets yet about that, but there's some exciting partners lined up, and I'm looking forward to launching the program again. But that's definitely one of the relevant initiatives. I'm a research assistant with a group in the School of Medicine that are investigating ethical guidelines for HIV testing on pregnant adolescents. So a lot of what I do is really just medical literature review at this point, but I'm really interested in the work that they do because it's not about, how do we test, like what is the cure for HIV and so on, but how can we ethically include pregnant young women in these studies and in these trials, because pregnant women is a very understudied population. And so their research is not necessarily, again, this is the drug that we use, this is how HIV works, but how can we make sure that women are included in these trials, but safely and ethically? And then also this summer, I'm an intern with an organization called the Reproductive Health Access Project, which is a network of clinicians across the states who are dedicated to advancing sexual and reproductive health care. And that's been really, really fun, just getting to work with the team. And I do a lot of patient education resources and translation, communications, all of that. And it's really taught me a lot about the environment around reproductive health care here in the States, the legislative environment, the political environment, the medical environment, and because they're unique, because they're a network of clinicians, not just individual people interested in advocacy, they're specifically clinicians. And I think that's really powerful because clinicians are the ones who, at the end of the day, are that last point of contact between, the patient and the medical field. And so I'm really excited to continue to learn from them and see how, continue to learn how my future in reproductive health care really would and does intersect with societal and political and legislative challenges. So, and then also, just as I said before, I like to read random weird anatomy and physiology stuff for fun. So the other day I was reading the NIH group fact sheets on women's health. Don't read it, it'll make you depressed, but I still read it. But and so just stuff like that I enjoy reading and just expanding my mind about what's out there and what are the biggest problems and what are some things that I can do as an individual to help make things better.
Before we move further, Ansley, what does your company, say about menstrual health?
So with this partnership that we have with Period Project North Carolina, um, part of the internship was going through data and research and current initiatives around menstrual inequity and coming up with a proposal that summarizes this research and then identifies specific action items to pitch to the company based on that research. And so some of the things that our interns found is that period product insecurity is really a very what's the word, like, not underappreciated, but it's a huge issue that is not given the visibility that it needs to, particularly in the States and particularly in um, the student age population. Some of our research shows just how much period insecurity does impact students' mental health and confidence, because it makes sense. Like if you feel ashamed of something that's happening in your own body, that's not exactly a breeding ground for confidence. And so one of the things that we have really, and I wrote an article about something similar to this for the Association for Women in Science magazine, but it's a lot about like how do we ensure a sustainable system for access to these products, because a lot of times it's really just about how can I get it? How can I have access to these resources so that I don't have to feel in this position of shame or embarrassment, which you should never feel ashamed or embarrassed of something that's just happening to your body. So that's pretty much sort of what our research focused on. And I shouldn't even say we, like our team of interns, because they did a phenomenal job really diving into the situation here in North Carolina. And our fellows continuing that we're talking to different students around North Carolina about their experiences and continuing to be in conversation with PPNC about their methodology for getting these sustainable systems, because it really is about how can we make sure that young people have access to the resources that they need so they don't feel like they are going through this alone or there's something wrong with them, because that's not the way that something completely normal should be treated and viewed. And so that's sort of what our research is mainly focused on.
That was amazing, Ansley. Well, all I can say is your company is really focused on the main thing about the men, the women's health, which is amazing stuff to do. And I love the fact that your company is also partnered with other companies as well, to deliver a certain common goal, which is an incredible thing, which is a very, very incredible thing. And I love the fact that you wait, hold on. I'm really curious about something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious about something. Why did your company only focus on the women's, health? How about the men's health?
That's
What do
a
you think?
really great question. That's a really great question. And I've had a few conversations with people about this because, yes, men are very much important to the advancement of women because we need people of all genders engaged in this collective idea of equity and inclusivity and diversity. It's not just women alone. In terms of specifically focusing on the issues facing women identifying individuals, it's just also what part of it is we can't solve every problem as much as I would really, really want to. And so we do have to kind of focus our scope on something that's not too broad and too um and too hard to pitch when you're talking with somebody. Something that I've learned through my entrepreneurial journey is just you need to make sure that what you're pitching, what you're selling in a sense is specific enough that it differentiates yourself from the rest, but then also it's easy for people to understand in the conversation. So if we did focus on men's health, it might sort of blur the image and the message that we're trying to send in terms of advancement of women. And so that's something that, and just in general, like there are so many other issues that I would have really wanted to involve, focusing on different populations and different programs and ideas, but I really tried to force myself to sort of specify the specific things that I wanted to make sure were staying at the forefront of who we were. That being said, I do know of a lot of organizations that are really powerful in empowering men to be allies as well. And I know there are some organizations on campus too that are really dedicated to cultivating in men those same productive and healthy mindsets, and breaking those stigmas that men have to experience as well. And so I'm very much, all for that. There's an organization that I follow in LinkedIn called A Call to Men that's really cool. And they are all about the same idea of how can we mobilize men to be allies as well, and rid themselves of these toxic mindsets that they have to go through, masculinity, and have to be the provider for the family and have to be tough and not show emotion. And those are just as toxic as the mindsets that plague women of perfectionism and imposter syndrome and all of that. So I would say that we decided to focus specifically on these issues facing women's career advancement, partly for just realistic, making sure that we're not too broad of a scope, but then also because we know that there are other people out there doing that incredible work in these other areas. And rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, we want to support them, amplify that, and partner with these people.
Wow. You know, I'm really speechless right now because you've really touched the point I wanted to ask questions on, which is an amazing stuff. And so let's just move forward to the next question.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
you ready for the fourth question?
Yes, excited to hear it.
So, so according to your experience, what are the main health problems of women today? Talk us through.
Well, as I said, if you read the NIH fact reports, you're kind of like, where do I start? But I think the main thing that I have definitely seen from my own research and experience is this phenomenon called the gender pain gap, where physicians and clinicians and medical practitioners just not taking women's pain seriously. And there are so many stories that I've read and just research that I've read of individual women who have been ignored or told or been, gaslighted into thinking that their legitimate medical concerns are just nothing, or emotion, or um, you're on your period and all that. But that's such a huge problem because medical like medical oversight, like the when medical resources are not provided to women in the time that they should be, that can cause a lot of problems. Maternal mortality is a huge problem here in North Carolina in particular, and just in the United States in general and in the world. But inadequate prenatal and postnatal care, often because of lack of resources or lack of accessibility, all these things compound to give us some really scary statistics about maternal mortality. 80% of women's deaths, pregnant people's deaths in 2023 were preventable. And you see a statistic like that, and you're like, what? How? But then you do a little more digging, and you realize that so many women in North Carolina, in particular, lack insurance. Rural North Carolina is very much lacking accessibility to a lot of resources, and there's so many social determinants of health is a huge buzzword that's being thrown around these days, but just so many societal things, these societal barriers that interfere with quality care for women. And I think in terms of like women's health in a broad sense, some of the biggest problems are that women just have not been considered in the idea of healthcare for a long time, which is kind of bonkers. But then you see statistics where it's like actual menstrual blood has not been tested on menstrual pads for like until like last year. That's crazy to me. And like women are not, they're so underrepresented in clinical trials. And so we just don't know how to treat women. We don't know. And then in some cases, we ignore women or gaslight them. And so it's just all of these issues all around the treatment of women as patients and the need to value and respect and validate their concerns rather than passing them off as just emotional, passing us off as just emotional or, um, you know, menstruating. And that definitely takes a lot of systemic change that's a little bit harder than just saying, oh, I've invented this drug that works now, because it's a lot of changing the way that society perceives women's pain and changing the way that um, changing the way that like our financial system even is supporting women who need health care, and all these different societal aspects that I think are really important for maintaining and enhancing patient autonomy and giving patients the security and the power to fight for what they need, to make informed decisions, to have access to the education, to have clinicians who are willing and able to have these conversations with them rather than just trying to force sort of a model where physicians provide women and just patients in general with the educational resources that they need to be informed, have conversations with their clinicians, maybe not necessarily making all their choices, because clinicians have been through residency and medical school and all of that, and so they do have a more familiarity with this field, but still giving patients the respect and the choice to take control of their health if and when they want to, I think is something that really needs to be changed in healthcare in general. And I say that, I admit that I am very much an amateur. I'm a rising sophomore and undergraduate, for crying out loud. But just from my own research, and I want to continue learning more about this. I want to continue learning, why are these disparities still evident? What are these specific and tangible changes that we can make to make things more equitable? And what can I do as a aspiring physician to help drive that change? So I will go ahead and say, again, I am definitely not a women's health expert. I'm still learning myself, but just from my own view of women's health, these are some of the things that I definitely see as the front running issues and challenges that we need to face.
Actually, you're making me more speechless as time goes on. You're just making me not to know exactly to say, because you're really the points I wanted to ask questions on, and you've answered that. So I think before I move to the last question, do you think that? Oh, wait, I learned something from what you just said, that you are trying to figure out, your own perspective. You're trying to like figure out the reason why these, you know, problems are still attached to the women. So my question is, do you have a backup system? Are there a supporting system backing you up with the research, or you're just doing that on your own? Tell me.
Oh yes, I am so grateful to my network of friends and mentors who I really do value and appreciate and depend on for overcoming my own challenges. And the thing I love about networking in people is that you really start to I mean, you have people who you go to for all sorts of things. Like you have your mentor who is more of your academic mentor of like, what classes should I take? You have your mentors who, in my case, I have a lot of individuals I know who are entrepreneurs and ran their own businesses and so can give me that much needed advice on how to navigate the business world. I have mentors who are med students and mentors who are very much not beyond med students and everybody in between. And I think the main thing that I'm so grateful for from my network is just what I've been able to learn from each and every one of them, just from talking with them and bouncing ideas off of them and asking them their thoughts on things. Um, it's been incredibly invaluable because I know, I'm not born with the knowledge of how to get into med school and how to, get involved in women's health. That you have to learn that. And from conversations with all these different individuals, I really started to get a deeper sense of what I'm interested in, what's already being done in that field, and what I can possibly contribute to it. Um, whether that's the executive director of the NC Information Exchange Authority or one of my friends in my um, like Bio 103 class, just every person that I meet who has familiarity with an interest in medicine is such a it's such a delight to get to connect with them and learn from them. And so I would say that really is what keeps me going as well. Conversations like this, meeting people like you who are just as eager to make their own mark in medicine, this is what keeps me energized and excited because I see how excited other people are for the same field, and I feel that same excitement and I feel that same passion, and um, it reminds me that there's so much more that I can still learn. There's so many more people I can still meet, um, and every person that I meet truly is teaching me something more that I wouldn't have known otherwise. So um, that's really sort of how just I'm so appreciative of everybody that I've had the chance.
You're already feeling the groove. You're feeling the groove already, like I said. So, Ansley, sorry, I just love your tenacity in terms of what you're doing. You really,
Thank
this is what you
you.
want, which is an amazing stuff. I don't think someone can deviate your mindset, say, hey, go that way, go this way. No, no, you're already fixed. So, which is an amazing thing to do. And I wish you all the
Thank
best in everything you do. So,
you.
the
Thank you.
last question for you is, we know you're an aspiring physician, so, or you're, like based on your perspective as, an aspiring physician, not long from now, just few years, few months,
Ah!
so as an aspiring physician, how do you plan to integrate your advocacy to improve women's health into your care? Talk us through.
I love that question because I think it really speaks to one of my core beliefs, which is physicians are very much agents of change, and I really want that to be the career that I have. I say in my cover letters to job applications, I say, I'm an aspiring physician. I'm aspiring to have a dual career as a reproductive endocrinologist and an advocate for women's advancement because that is very much a part of who I am, and I want it to stay that way. I definitely plan on continuing my work with my nonprofit, and definitely, I refuse to make like a retirement plan or like when I'm gone because I don't anticipate that ever happening for a long time. But because it's just something I love so much. And then once I get into med school, I would love to be a part of making medical education more aware of and and valuing and lifting up women's health issues because literally like there was a statistic I read the other day that like less than half of medical curriculums I think in the United States talk explicitly about women's health. And it's like, what? That is literally like that's health. And so things like that I would love to get more involved into. How can we, as a med student, how can I help to make knowledge about this thing that I care about so deeply accessible to other med students as well, so then they have that knowledge that they can take on in their own careers. So that's definitely something I could see myself getting more involved into um, as once I get into med school. But just overall, once I become a physician, I really want to be able to have a voice in these conversations of change and reform. And through my work with like Reproductive Health Access Project, I've really seen the way that clinicians have and continue to be involved in this work of whether it's lobbying the government for a different act or being the one in their practice to um, start to integrate new ways of care. And just seeing that and getting to be exposed to all these different physician leaders really has inspired me to, in the sense that I see that it is possible to be in social justice and in medicine and to have a very thriving career in both. Um, and so, yeah, I do plan to continue on this journey of breaking down these systemic barriers and creating systemic change for women, women advancing in STEM careers.
And I wish you nothing but success in everything you do, which is because
Thank
you're
you.
really on the right path. I wish you
Thank you.
all the best. You've been an amazing guest speaker, and I believe that
Thank you.
the audience will have some questions based on women's health, and you know about your company as well, and they'll be willing to reach out to you. So we're gonna put some details for you to reach out to Aynsley in the YouTube description below. So before we wrap up the session, Aynsley, what are your last words for your audience?
One of the things that I wish everybody knew is something that I sort of live by, which is you are the agent of your own destiny. You create your own destiny, and whatever you want to do, if there's not an easy path toward it, or if there's not a clear path toward it, go make it yourself. You don't have to be constrained by what's currently available to you. Take control of your own life and be proactive and be audacious and be fearless, because if you don't, you're going to spend the rest of your life asking what if. And that's something that I really live by, because especially when you're involved in the work of social justice and systemic change, the things that you want to see are not going to exist yet, because that's the whole point of what you're doing. It's not there. And so you have to be ready and you have to be eager and fearless and brave to step out and say, I want to create something that hasn't been done before, but I believe deserves to be here. And it can be terrifying to do that. I definitely feel like um, when you are thrust into a situation where you have no sort of action plan, it can be terrifying. But if there's something that you genuinely care about, go for it and create your own destiny, and never let your situation or your perceived failings or perceived barriers stop you from doing what you want to do.
That was a nice nuggets right there. And so if you love this content, you will to subscribe, like, and share. And make sure to follow LinkedIn and Instagram and other social media platforms that will be attached in the YouTube description below. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ainsley.
Thank you. This has been